In Part 1, we saw 10 ancient technologies that defy explanation. But that was just the beginning. Now, 10 more that are even more impossible. Number 11, Damascus steel. The most legendary metal in history. Sharper than any modern blade. Stronger. More flexible. And we have absolutely no idea how they made it. For over 1,000 years, from 300 BC to the 1800s, bladesmiths in Damascus forged weapons using wood steel from India. These blades could cut through European swords and armor like butter. Crusaders brought them home as prized trophies. But by the mid-19th century, the secret was lost. Modern analysis revealed something shocking. Damascus steel contains carbon nanotubes, structures we only discovered in the 1990s. The steel's unique properties came from specific trace elements in Indian iron ore. But that ore is now depleted. Modern Damascus steel is just pattern-welded metal. It looks similar, but it's not the same material. The evidence is in the performance. Damascus blades could be sharpened to a razor edge and hold it through hundreds of cuts. They could flex without breaking. European swords of the same era couldn't compete. But here's what's strange, the formula was never written down. It was passed orally from master to apprentice. When the last masters died and the specific ore ran out, the knowledge vanished. Mainstream science says Damascus steel was simply brilliant metallurgy, trial and error over centuries. But there's a problem, it appears in history fully formed, with no evidence of gradual development. And the nanostructures? Those require precise temperature control and specific alloy ratios that shouldn't have been possible with ancient furnaces. Genesis 4 mentions Tubal-Cain, the first metalworker, skilled in bronze and iron. What if Damascus steel isn't medieval innovation but a fragment of pre-flood metallurgical knowledge? Knowledge that survived in oral tradition for generations before finally being lost when the ore ran out and the masters died. Lost metallurgy is one thing. But what about concrete that gets stronger with time? Number 12, Roman concrete. 2,000 years old. Still standing. Meanwhile, our modern concrete? It starts cracking after 50 years. What did they know that we forgot? The Roman Pantheon in Rome, built in 128 AD, has the largest unreinforced concrete dome in the world. Nearly 2,000 years later, it's still perfect. And underwater structures like Caesarea Maritima Harbor? They've survived millennia in corrosive saltwater. Modern harbors start deteriorating within decades. Modern scientists finally figured out the secret: volcanic ash. The Romans mixed pozzolanic volcanic ash with lime and seawater. This created a rare crystal called a luminous tobermarite. And here's the incredible part: when cracks form, seawater seeps in and triggers more crystal growth. The concrete literally heals itself. Tests prove Roman concrete is more durable, more flexible, and more environmentally friendly than modern cement. Portland cement production accounts for 8% of global CO2 emissions. Roman concrete? Practically carbon neutral. So why did we stop using it? Because after the fall of Rome, the knowledge of where to find the right volcanic ash and the exact mixing ratios was lost. For over 1,000 years, we built with inferior materials. The mainstream view? Trial and error over generations. But here's the question: how did they discover this exact mixture without microscopes or chemical analysis? And why are there no surviving records of the development process? It's as if the Romans inherited the knowledge fully formed. What if Roman concrete wasn't invented but rediscovered? After the flood scattered humanity at Babel, construction knowledge was fragmented. The Romans, through providence or research, stumbled onto principles known to pre-flood builders. Then, when Rome fell, the knowledge scattered again. Roman engineering is impressive. But the Byzantines? They had something even more terrifying. Number 13, Greek fire. The ultimate naval weapon. It burned on water. It couldn't be extinguished. And the formula? Lost to history. In 678 AD, Arab forces besieged Constantinople with a massive fleet. They should have won. But the Byzantines deployed a secret weapon: Greek fire. Liquid flames shot from bronze tubes, spreading across the water, incinerating entire fleets. The Arabs retreated. The empire survived for another 800 years. Modern chemists think Greek fire was petroleum-based, maybe crude oil, pine resin, sulfur, and quicklime. But replications don't match historical accounts. Greek fire was more persistent, more adhesive, and far more terrifying than anything we can recreate. The exact formula was a state secret, guarded by emperors and the Kallinikos family. When the empire fell, the secret died with them. The evidence is in the accounts. Arab historians described it as artificial lightning and sea fire. Byzantine sources say it was projected through bronze tubes under pressure. Even captured samples couldn't be replicated by enemies. The preparation method was critical. By the 13th century, improved naval tactics and countermeasures made it obsolete. The Byzantines stopped producing it, and within generations, nobody remembered the formula. Mainstream history credits Kallinikos, a Jewish refugee architect, with inventing Greek fire in the 7th century. But critics ask, how did he develop this complex delivery system and chemical formula seemingly overnight? And why are there no records of earlier, less effective versions? It appears fully formed in history. The Bible describes fire from heaven and divine judgment. What if these weren't miracles but descriptions of advanced incendiary technology? Pre-flood civilizations may have mastered chemical warfare. Greek fire could be a distant echo, a fragment of that knowledge, preserved in alchemical secrets and finally weaponized by Byzantine scholars. Fire that burns forever. Stone that sings. What's next might be the strangest of all. Number 14, Pyramid Acoustics. The king's chamber in the Great Pyramid is tuned to 117 Hz, chant at that frequency, and the entire room vibrates. Coincidence? Not likely. It's not just the Great Pyramid. Multiple Egyptian sites show evidence of acoustic engineering. The king's chamber is built from rose granite, a material that amplifies and reflects sound. The dimensions create standing waves. Even the sarcophagus is acoustically coupled to the room. Coincidence? Or intentional design? When you chant into the sarcophagus at 117 Hz, the entire chamber resonates. That frequency matches the resonant frequency of human body cavities. Some researchers believe the pyramids were designed as resonance chambers, possibly for healing, altered states of consciousness, or ceremonial purposes. The Grand Gallery may have functioned as an infrasound amplifier. The evidence extends beyond the Great Pyramid. The massive granite boxes at Saqqara produce precise tones when struck. Karnak's columns amplify speech, making whispers audible across vast halls. Ancient Egyptian texts describe sound as sacred, used in rituals and healing. Modern sound therapy uses similar frequencies to promote healing and altered states. Did the Egyptians understand something about sound that we're only now rediscovering? Skeptics say it's coincidental. Granite naturally resonates. Chamber dimensions happen to create standing waves. But the precision is remarkable. The frequency isn't random, it's the exact resonance of human tissues. The sarcophagus placement? Acoustically optimal. Critics also struggle to explain why multiple sites show similar acoustic properties. The Bible records sound-destroying walls at Jericho. Revelation describes angels with trumpets bringing judgment. What if these aren't metaphors but descriptions of acoustic technology? Pre-flood builders may have mastered vibrational principles. Egypt's pyramids could be remnants of that knowledge, sacred science preserved in stone. From sound to stone. From pyramids to the ocean floor. What lies beneath the waves? Number 15, the Yonaguni Monument. A massive underwater structure off Japan. Terraces. Right angles. Carved channels. Natural formation? Or the ruins of a 10,000-year-old lost city? In 1986, divers exploring off Yonaguni Island, Japan's westernmost point, discovered something extraordinary: massive rock formations 25 meters underwater. The structure covers 50 meters wide and rises 27 meters from the seafloor. If it's man-made, it's older than the pyramids. But there's debate. Here's why it's controversial. The structure has features that look man-made: flat terraces, straight edges, right-angle corners, and what appear to be carved channels and stairways. Dr. Masaaki Kimura, a marine geologist, has argued for decades that these are ruins of an ancient civilization. But geologist Robert Schoch says it's a natural sandstone formation modified by tectonic activity. The evidence is mixed. Supporters point to tool marks, post holes, and a feature resembling a carved face. Critics counter that sandstone naturally breaks along bedding planes, creating geometric shapes. Tectonic activity in the region produces similar formations on land. And crucially, no artifacts have been found. No pottery, no tools, no evidence of human occupation. If it's a city, where are the people? The most reasonable theory? Both. Geologist Robert Schoch suggests Yonaguni is primarily a natural formation that ancient humans modified. They carved channels, flattened terraces, and added structures using existing rock. That would explain the geometric features without requiring a lost city. But if true, it's still remarkable, humans modifying underwater structures 10,000 years ago. If Yonaguni is man-made, the dating is explosive. The site would have been above water 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, before the end of the last ice age. That places it squarely in the pre-flood era. What if it's not a lost city but evidence of pre-flood civilization, structures built before the catastrophe that drowned the world? From beneath the sea to above the clouds. What you're about to see can only be understood from the sky. Number 16, the Nazca Lines. Massive drawings carved into the Peruvian desert, some over 1,000 feet long. Perfect geometry. But here's the catch, you can only see them from the sky. Created between 500 BC and 500 AD by the Nazca culture, these geoglyphs went unnoticed for centuries. Local people walked on them without realizing what they were. Then in the 1920s, aircraft pilots flying over Peru spotted them, massive animal figures and geometric patterns covering 200 square miles. The mystery isn't just that they're huge, it's that they're precise. Lines run perfectly straight for miles across uneven terrain. The spider geoglyph matches the Orion constellation. The monkey's tail tracks the winter solstice sunrise. Without aerial perspective, how did the Nazca plan and execute these designs? And why make something only visible from the sky? Recent discoveries using AI and drones have found hundreds more geoglyphs, some predating the Nazca culture. The lines show evidence of ceremonial use, worn paths, pottery offerings at intersections, connections to the Kawachi temple complex. Multiple theories exist: astronomical calendar tracking solstices and constellations, water rituals marking sacred paths to underground aquifers, or pilgrimage routes for religious ceremonies. Mainstream archaeology says the Nazca used stakes and rope to mark out designs, walking along the lines to create them. Possible, but critics ask, how did they maintain perfectly straight lines across hills and valleys? How did they align figures with constellations without seeing them from above? And why are some lines deliberately created to be visible only from the sky? The Bible describes humans building towers to reach heaven, creating monuments to God visible from above. What if the Nazca lines are a cultural memory of that impulse? Pre-flood civilizations may have built for aerial perspective either their own, if they had flight, or as offerings to the divine. The Nazca, inheriting fragments of that tradition, created their own messages to the gods. Lines in the sand are one thing. But what if ancient texts describe nuclear war? Number 17, ancient nuclear warfare. Sounds insane. But the ancient Indian text Mahabharata describes weapons that vaporize armies, create mushroom clouds, and cause radiation-like sickness. Coincidence? Mohenjo-Daro, a major city of the Indus Valley civilization dating to 2500 BC, was mysteriously abandoned. Archaeological excavations found skeletons scattered in the streets, suggesting sudden catastrophic death. No signs of warfare or plague. The Mahabharata, written centuries later, describes devastating weapons used in ancient wars. Listen to what the Mahabharata says: a single projectile charged with all the power of the universe, smoke and flames bright as 10,000 suns rose in all its splendor, corpses were so burned as to be unrecognizable. Hair and nails fell out, pottery broke without apparent cause. These descriptions eerily match nuclear weapon effects. Proponents point to vitrified stones at Mohenjo-Daro, rocks turned to glass by extreme heat, similar to nuclear test sites. Early reports claimed high radiation levels, but modern testing finds no significant radioactivity. Critics say the vitrification comes from pottery kilns, building fires, or natural events. No credible evidence of radioactive isotopes exists. But the textual descriptions remain haunting. Skeptics say the Mahabharata is mythology, poetic exaggeration describing conventional warfare with metaphorical language. But others ask, how do Bronze Age poets describe effects of nuclear weapons they've never seen? Blinding light? Mushroom clouds? Radiation sickness? Either it's remarkable coincidence, or these texts preserve memories of actual advanced warfare. The Bible describes fire from heaven destroying cities, Sodom and Gomorrah consumed in an instant. What if pre-flood civilizations possessed weapons of mass destruction? The flood came partly as judgment for violence and corruption. Perhaps the Mahabharata preserves memories of pre-flood warfare, knowledge too terrible to fully forget. From ancient warfare to ancient artifacts. But not all mysteries have real evidence. Number 18, crystal skulls. Perfectly carved from solid quartz. Ancient Aztec artifacts? Or elaborate forgeries? Spoiler, they're fake. But the story matters. Crystal skulls became famous in the early 20th century. Explorers claimed to find them in Mayan and Aztec ruins. The most famous, the Mitchell-Hedges skull, was allegedly discovered in 1924 in Belize. Museums acquired them as genuine pre-Columbian artifacts. But there was a problem. Modern analysis destroyed the legend. Microscopic examination revealed rotary tool marks, modern machinery not available to ancient Mesoamericans. The quartz was traced to Brazil and Madagascar. And most damning, historical records show these skulls appeared in European collectors' markets in the 1800s, decades before explorers discovered them in ruins. The evidence is conclusive: no crystal skull has ever been found in a legitimate archaeological excavation. None appear in conquistador accounts or colonial records. The Aztecs and Mayans did carve stone skulls, but crude ones using copper and stone tools. These highly polished quartz skulls? Made in 19th-century Germany for wealthy collectors fascinated by ancient mysteries. Museums have since removed them from exhibits. There's no alternative theory here. The evidence is overwhelming. A few believers claim testing is flawed, but every major museum and university agrees, crystal skulls are 19th-century creations. The Mitchell-Hedges skull? Purchased at a 1943 London auction, not discovered in Belize. The romance of lost civilization sold skulls to collectors and museums. Science exposed the fraud. Why include crystal skulls in this list? Because not every mystery holds up to scrutiny. Real ancient technologies, like Baalbek or the Antikythera mechanism, have solid archaeological evidence. Forgeries don't. Part of seeking truth is rejecting falsehoods. The genuine mysteries are remarkable enough without frauds. From modern fakes to controversial maps. This next one still has historians arguing. Number 19, the Piri Reis Map. Drawn in 1513, it shows the coast of Antarctica, 300 years before Antarctica was officially discovered. And it's ice-free. How? In 1513, Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis created a world map. It was lost for centuries, then rediscovered in 1929 in Istanbul's Topkapi Palace. Piri's own notes claim he compiled it from 20 source maps, some dating to the time of Alexander the Great, others captured from Spanish sailors. Here's the controversy. The map shows a southern landmass that some researchers believe is Antarctica's coast, as it would appear without ice. Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1820, and wasn't fully mapped until the 1900s. The last time Antarctica was ice-free? Over 6,000 years ago. How could a 1513 map show it? The evidence against Antarctica is strong. Professional cartographers point out the southern landmass closely resembles South America's Patagonian coast, just exaggerated and rotated. Piri Reis compiled data from recent Portuguese and Spanish voyages that mapped South America's eastern coast. Without modern surveying, coastal features were often duplicated or distorted. No source map from antiquity shows Antarctica. Mainstream scholars say the map is an impressive but imperfect 16th-century work using contemporary sources. But alternative researchers argue the longitude calculations are too accurate for 1513. Europeans struggled with longitude until the 18th century. If Piri Reis copied ancient source maps from the Library of Alexandria, those sources might preserve pre-flood cartographic knowledge. What if pre-flood civilizations mapped the entire world? Before the Ice Age, before the flood, when Antarctica was habitable. That knowledge could have been preserved in ancient libraries, Alexandria, Carthage, Pergamum. Piri Reis, copying those maps, unknowingly included continents from a lost age. Ancient maps are one thing. But what if they could fly? Number 20, Ancient Flight Technology. A wooden bird from Egypt with a tail like an airplane. Gold artifacts from Colombia shaped like jets. Sanskrit texts describing flying machines. Coincidence? Or forgotten technology? 3 separate cultures, thousands of miles apart, created artifacts resembling aircraft. Egypt's Saqqara bird, a wooden model from 200 BC with aerodynamic features. Colombia's gold flyers, small gold artifacts shaped like modern delta-wing aircraft. And India's Vimanas, detailed Sanskrit texts describing flying chariots with propulsion systems. The Saqqara bird has a vertical tail fin, like modern aircraft stabilizers, unlike bird tails which are horizontal. Wind tunnel tests of Colombian gold flyers show aerodynamic stability at certain speeds. They resemble modern delta-wing jets. And the Vimana texts? They describe construction materials, propulsion using mercury vortex engines, and navigation systems. Skeptics offer alternatives. The Saqqara bird might represent an ibis or serve as a weather vane, not a glider. Colombian gold flyers could depict insects, flying fish, or birds with exaggerated features. And the Vaimanika Shastra? Some scholars argue it's a 20th century text inspired by modern aviation, not ancient knowledge. Attempted reconstructions of these designs as functional aircraft have largely failed. The debate continues. Are these stylized animals? Or evidence of flight? The Saqqara bird's tail is unusual for a bird but perfect for a glider. Colombian artifacts have features, cockpits, stabilizers, that don't match biology. The Vimana texts contain details that seem oddly specific for pure mythology. Perhaps these aren't depictions of actual aircraft but cultural memories of pre-flood flight technology, encoded in myth and art. The Bible describes flying chariots, Ezekiel's wheel, Elijah ascending in a chariot of fire. What if pre-flood humanity mastered flight? Not interstellar travel, but gliders or basic aircraft. After the flood, that knowledge became mythology, flying gods, heavenly vehicles. The Saqqara bird, the Colombian artifacts, the Vimana texts, attempts by later cultures to recreate what their ancestors once achieved. 20 technologies. From Damascus steel to ancient flight. From lost concrete to pyramid acoustics. The evidence is overwhelming. Let's bring it all together. 20 ancient technologies. 20 mysteries. Some explained, some not, some debunked. But the pattern is undeniable. Ancient civilizations possessed knowledge and capabilities far beyond what mainstream history admits. Precision stonework that defies modern replication. Lost metallurgy. Self-healing concrete. Acoustic engineering. Underwater structures. And texts describing impossible weapons. The Bible describes a world before the flood, advanced, sophisticated, and ultimately judged. These technologies aren't anomalies. They're evidence. Remnants of that lost world, preserved in stone, metal, and memory. The question isn't whether they existed. The question is, are we ready to rewrite history? This is just the beginning. Subscribe for deep dive episodes on each technology. Share this with someone who needs to see the evidence. The truth is out there, hidden in plain sight. All you have to do is look.